Hello family, welcome back to another YouTube video. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Lucy Brown. I surely do hope that you enjoy this video as well as the content as well. And if you do indeed, please do make sure that you consider becoming part of this family by hitting the subscribe button down below. If you'd also like to be notified whenever I upload fresh, new, crispy content, please also make sure that you smash the notification bell down below. And as per usual, before you continue watching the video, please do make sure that you give this video a massive thumbs up. Remember, liking the video just basically helps YouTube to recommend this video to a larger audience as well. Now, as you've seen from the title of the video, today we are discussing do's and don'ts on a first date. You know, it's the funny thing, now that I'm actually recording this video, I'm actually thinking to myself, do people actually still go on dates these days? Because the stories that I hear, guys, is that people just meet one another in the streets or somewhere and then they hit it off from there. Next thing, like, they're dating. And it's like the most absurd thing ever to me, of how you're just gonna hit it off with the person that you hardly know or that you've met like once at a glance. Like, I don't know, I'm not there. But if you are a single lady and you're putting yourself out there to be seen and you really want to be in a relationship, please, in the name of God, do not settle for these guys that only invite you or that invite you to their bedrooms as first dates. Please, like, just stay away from those guys. And if you are a gent looking for your queen, please be a gentleman enough to just separate yourself from the rest, or from the rest of the guys who invite women to their bedrooms. Please just be a gentleman and invite a lady out on a date, please. And once you've agreed to go on the date, or once she's agreed to go on the date with you, here's the do's and don'ts that you should be doing or shouldn't be doing on a first date. Point number one: prepare yourself financially. And I'm posing this one to the ladies especially, and I'm putting it on number one specifically for us, because I know, right, that when a person invites you on a date, it should be like common sense, or it should be general knowledge that if you invite me on a date, or if a guy invites me on a date, that he's going to be paying for the date. But it's not always the case, guys, and it isn't always an obvious thing. There's some guys who will actually tell you that, you know what, I'm actually comfortable with paying 50% of the bill and I'd like you to pay the other 50%. Or some guys would actually be on some, I'm only paying for the things that I ate, and I'd appreciate if you'd also pay for the things that you ordered. So just prepare yourself financially. Even though the guy does seem like he's a gentleman and all of those things, just always make sure that when you go on a date, make sure that you've got money in your account, so that should this person like pull some sort of stunt on you, you know that you are sorted. As a lady, if you were on a date and a guy asked you to pay at least for the stuff that you ordered, would you take offense with that? Like, do you find a problem with that? Leave a comment down below and tell me if you would actually take offense if a guy actually did that, or if you were just like, no, I don't have a problem with that. And also, as a guy, do you think, or do you find a problem with paying for every date that you take a woman on? Or do you feel like because we are not on that level yet, then she should be paying for her own meal? Like, I don't know. I feel like I actually don't truly know how I feel about this one, but I think back in the day, maybe I wouldn't have took offense. Maybe I wouldn't have took offense if someone asked me to pay for my portion of the dates, but I definitely would have not have taken a second date or went out on a second date with him. Point number two: be yourself. I think it's extremely important to be yourself on a date, and not take on a persona that you probably think your date or your potential date would probably be impressed by, or acting as if you're a type of person, for instance, that doesn't eat a lot. Act like a person who doesn't eat a lot just because you want to impress your date. Like, no. Like, okay, I'm joking on that one. For an example, maybe trying to be a serious or much more serious person that you actually are, because you actually want your potential date, or you want your date rather, to take you serious, and you think that if you show your normal personality, or if you be yourself, then the person is not going to take you seriously because you literally laugh at everything. I just think that when you pretend to be someone that you're not, you then attract someone who's not going to be compatible with your true self. Authenticity helps you find someone who's truly going to appreciate you for who you are. For an example, if you're authentically being yourself and you know that you're just a jolly person and you just laugh literally at every and anything, should the person not be into you, at least they were not into you for someone that you were not. So you don't have to then have the pressure of someone being into a personality or being into you, and meanwhile you're not even that person. Now you have to go along or live up to a persona that is truly not you, which just brings along unnecessary pressure. So being authentically yourself just increases the chances of a meaningful and a long-term connection. Point number 3, engaging in conversation. Instead of asking questions that require a yes or no answer, ask open-ended questions that are going to encourage your partner or encourage your date to open up or to share more. For an example, instead of asking, did you have a good weekend? And rather ask like, what did you do? Or what did you get up to the weekend? Any activities that you got up to the weekend? Like open-ended questions that's going to keep the conversation flowing. While you're ensuring that conversation is flowing, especially for people, this is especially for the people who talk a lot, just make sure that you're not over-dominating the conversation, where you interjecting while the person is speaking, where you just always like talking about either yourself or whatever topic you're interested in. You are basically like overpowering the person. Just give the person space to share their feelings. Give your date rather space to share their feelings, to share their thoughts as well. You also want to be mindful, right, and take cues from the person's expressions. For example, if you ask a sensitive, or you ask a question, but the gestures or the response that the person's giving is giving vibes that the person is uncomfortable with the topic or uncomfortable with the question, like avoid like pressing onto sensitive issues, or avoid pressing onto a matter that you can clearly see a person is just uncomfortable with talking about. I mean, like it's early stages and you just don't want to come off as a person who's just being insensitive by trying to force out a person to talk about something that they're clearly uncomfortable with. Point number 4, choose a comfortable location. Selecting the right location for a first date can significantly impact the overall experience of a date. And remember, the first date, please, the right location is stay away from bedrooms, stay away from people's houses, please. A comfortable environment contributes to a better conversation. So you want to make sure that when you are picking out a location for a date, you keep in mind or you take into consideration the noise level. The last thing you want to do is take a person out on a date or invite someone out on a date to a place that is extremely loud, where we have to literally be screaming at one another in order for us to hear one another. And while we're on this one, in this day and age that we're living in, a first date does not necessarily have to be a restaurant. You don't necessarily need to take a person out to a restaurant, right? If I'm really being quite honest, if I was still single and I was still going out on dates, I truly appreciate it if someone didn't take me out to a casual restaurant. I truly do think that it would be nice, or it's nice when someone tries and think out of the box, or when someone maybe consults you to ask like, where do you think we could go out, or where would you like us to go out for a first date? Things like maybe a park or an art gallery or something that is just besides, or maybe start off with games and then finish off with dinner or with lunch or whatever the case is. I just think it's nice and it's a kind thing to take your date's preferences into consideration. In essence, the goal of choosing a comfortable location for a first date is really just to make sure that you and your date can be in a place where you and your date can relax, enjoy one another's company, and focus on building a connection. Point number 5, dress appropriately. There's nothing that used to bore me the most than a guy who used to pitch up show up to a date and you can see that this person did not put a thought or did not put an effort into their appearance. Like, I know with women, most of the time we put effort into and thought into our looks and our appearances, especially on dates. But then there's just some guys who they behave in ways or dress in ways like they are a never-minded person. Like, you should show effort in your dressing. You can't just pitch up to a date and you just like, yeah, I like, this is me, you know? How you dress on a first date can make a significant impression. Dressing appropriately shows that you value the date. It shows that you actually take this interaction seriously. And while we're on about dressing, right, it's important for you to dress appropriately, but also dress for the occasion. You can't say that you're going out to a park and then you show up dressed in a suit. Like, why are you dressed in a suit going to a park? Or you can't say you're going to a park and yet you're wearing an extra short dress. Do you understand? Because how are you even gonna sit, or you guys are planning to have picnic vibes and you dressed in an extra short dress? Like, how are you even going to sit comfortably? Or are you gonna, like, you know? Or maybe you guys are going out to dinner and you're dressed in this extra tight dress and you know very well that your belly is not, you know, that it's not in summer mode, you know, and there you are uncomfortable sitting with your hands like, you know, on your stomach, or sitting in a way to cover your stomach because you feel uncomfortable. Dressing appropriately for an event, or dressing appropriately rather for a date, means that you need to be considerate of the occasion and be comfortable as well. When you are dressed well and when you are dressed comfortably, you're likely to feel more confident, and ain't nobody gonna tell me that confidence ain't attractive. Confidence is really attractive, and that's because it positively influences your demeanor. Point number 6, be punctual. Arriving on time just shows that you respect your date's time, and it just sets a positive tone for the evening or for the afternoon. Being punctual is a simple and yet important aspect of making a positive impression on a first date. The last thing that you actually want to do is arrive late to a date, especially if your date is a time-conscious person. For me personally, it just dampens the whole mood. It just makes the atmosphere uncomfortable, and it starts off the date on a sour note. And yes, unforeseen circumstances can lead to you being late despite your best intentions, but at least if you're running late, like, hit the person up with a text or call them. Just communicate and tell the person that I am running late. But overall, being punctual is just a small yet a meaningful way of showing respect and that you consider the person in the early stages of getting to know a person. Point number 7, be polite. This one is more especially for my ladies. Please be polite. At times you go out on a date with the person and I really don't understand people who go out on a date for food, because, like, don't you have food at home? But anyway, but at times you find yourself in situations where you go out with the person, or someone says something, or you have a conversation with them, and then you realize that, yeah, you guys are really not going to work because your values are just not aligned. Once you've noticed, or once you've picked up at whichever point in the date that you're not into the person, please do not check out at that point where you're just being rude to a person and you're giving like one word answers. Like, just be polite. Be polite and have good manners. Good manners show that you respect your date as an individual and that you respect their presence, regardless of whether you like them or whether you're into them or not. Being polite leaves a positive impression on your character and who you are as a person. Regardless of whether you like a person or not, you don't want a person leaving that date being hurt because of your hurtful comments or because of how rude you were. You just want to make sure that by the time you guys, leave that date, that there's a mutual sort of respect for one another. You don't want to leave that place where the person is just like, I've got no respect for this lady because of the way she portrayed herself. You just want to keep intact your character and the good traits of your character, even if you aren't interested in that person in that type of way. For the gems, being polite may look like holding the door or offering a seat, just showing acts of kindness from both parties, but just showing that you are taking the well-being and the comfortability of your date into consideration. That is being polite. Always carry your good manners with you. Express your gratitude at the end of the date, whether it be through text message or while you're still there. Tell the person, thank you for actually bringing me out here. Thank you for paying for the food. Always express gratitude, show good manners. Remember, being polite goes beyond just formal gestures. Just remember to always be kind to people. Be kind and be respectful. Point number 8, do not overshare. While it's good to share things about yourself, avoid oversharing personal and intimate information. You just want to keep the conversation well balanced. Oversharing personal and intimate details right away can make your date feel overwhelmed or even uncomfortable. It's important to create a gradual sort of environment where the both of you can open up at a pace that feels natural. On a first date, you need to make sure that you avoid TMI, too much information. And I know for some people, there's some people's stories, success stories, where they hit it off on the first date and where they shared really deep, intimate aspects of their life with their dates on the first date, and it worked out for them. But the key word really here is just to keep things natural, to flow with the conversation, not where you are oversharing or not where you are bombarding the person with overwhelming information. Coming to think about it, I actually remember on a date and this guy showed me his payslip. For what? Like, what was that for? For me, that was just like, it was uncomfortable, and it just, it put me off. Like, it put me off. For me, it was uncomfortable and a bit too intimate. Like, I just feel like on the first date, that's just not the type of information you share with the person, unless you're trying to gain points, because obviously, if you're going to show such information, you must be really confident in the type of payslip that you get. So just avoid TMI. Point number 9, avoid rushing physical intimacy. What I actually mean by physical intimacy on a first date is a kiss, a hug, or even holding hands. I'm not even gonna get into sex, because why are we even talking about sex on a first date? Like, my stance on that. I am a Christian, so you probably know my stance on sex in general, right? But that is just to say, yes, some people really wouldn't mind. Like, it's really not a big deal to give people hugs. Do you understand what I'm saying? But there are some people where hugs are a big deal. So before you actually lean into hug a person as you guys are leaving or when you come in, you just really want to respect a person by asking first. Ask a person, do you mind if I hug you? Do you mind if I hold your hands? Like, why would you even be holding hands on a first date? I don't know. Do you mind if I hold your hand? Like, just be respectful of a person. Or if a person communicates that I'm not comfortable in holding hands, I'm not comfortable with kissing on a first date, I'm not comfortable with hugging, just respect a person's boundaries. Pushing for physical intimacy on a first date can be interpreted or misinterpreted as the main focus of the date. So if a person says, I'm uncomfortable with a hug, don't be pushing for like there's nothing wrong or there's nothing deep with the hug. Like, it's just a hug. It's just respect a person's boundaries. You're really here on a first date. You're really there to know a person, and that's truly what you should be focusing on. I know that everything that I just mentioned sounded like more men would be guilty of this, but actually there are actually some women who put pressure on men to say like, he shouldn't be on, like, why is he even on? Like, a guy doesn't ask to hug a woman, he should just hug a woman. A guy doesn't ask to hold hands, he should just hold hands. Like, there's just some women, right? Their preferences that don't ask, like, just read the atmosphere and go with the flow. Like, just on a first date, I'd just say, like, just don't go in with those expectations, because there's just some guys who did not grow up in a household like that. There were some guys who truly uncomfortable with just, going with the flow without getting consent or some sort of consent verbally from you. Point number 10, avoid complaining. Even if things aren't going as planned, avoid complaining about the scenery, about the activities, about the date itself, about the food. This is not me saying don't voice out your dissatisfaction maybe with the food, to say that, yeah, I didn't really enjoy this meal, but don't complain about it, where the whole date now is about the experience, the bad experience of the food, and where the whole mood and the whole atmosphere is changed because you are complaining about one thing and you refuse to move on from that. Complaining can lead to awkwardness and discomfort for both you and your date. It's best to keep the conversation light and to try by all means to make the best out of any circumstance. Those are my tips for do's and don'ts on a first date. So yeah, guys, those are my do's and don'ts for a first date. Remember, by following these do's and don'ts, it does not necessarily mean that the person is going to be into you and that you guys are going to get married, have kids, and all of those things. No, just basically means that you will be creating a much more or a respectful and enjoyable experience out of your first date. Let me just close it off by saying this. Remember, first dates are just there for us to see if there's a connection, basically for us to get to know one another better. What I've actually noticed that, yes, some guys, they don't accept rejection quite well, but the majority of them, because they've been rejected so many times, are used to rejection. But I've noticed with women that we take so much offense after a first date and a person is just not into you in that way. We take so much offense and we almost take it literal, as if it's a reflection of the type of people we are. If a guy is not into you after the first date, like, it's okay. He's not a dog for not being into you. He's not a person who doesn't have good intentions just because he's not into you. He was just not into you. Maybe your values and his values, what he's looking out or what he's looking for out of life is not the same type of things that you value or the same type of things that you are looking for, and that's completely okay. And that's not a reflection that you are not a good enough girlfriend or you're not a good enough woman or any of those things. I just need us women to be able to accept rejection with a grain of salt. Well, guys, I'm going to end it off there. I truly do hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, if you have not liked the video by now, please do make sure that you give this video a massive thumbs up. It basically helps YouTube to recommend this video to a larger audience as well. Leave a comment down below and tell me, what did you think of this video? If you have not hit the subscribe button by now, please do make sure that you consider, actually, if you've watched the video till this far and you liked this content, this is normally the type of content that I do, please do make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. If you'd like to be notified whenever I upload YouTube videos, which is every Monday and Wednesdays, by the way, please do make sure that you smash the notification icon down below. Thank you so much, guys, for your time, and I'll see you on the next one.